Hello and welcome to another edition of How to Improve at Chess, the 9 mistakes that beginners most often make. This week we're going over too many queen moves, why they're bad, and why you should prevent doing them yourself. In this video we're going to go over 2 separate games that highlight the problems with moving your queen around too early in games. The first being that you're going to lose time, which means you're going to lose development compared to your opponent, and then you're also going to get your queen trapped and endanger your queen, which could also lose you the game on the spot. So without further ado, let's begin. And before we start these games, if you could please drop a like on our video down here below. Greatly appreciate it. So in the first game, let's start it off. It starts off with a pretty basic opening. White meeting with e4, knight to f3, and then but the black comes out with a quick queen move. What you see a lot in the lower level of games, trying to get this bishop out here and potentially get a scholar's mate right there on f2. White, seeing this, isn't really fazed by this queen coming out and just continues its development, getting the bishop out. The queen's now looking at this pawn move over here, and white castles early, protecting all 3 of these pawns and having a considerable lead in development. Black has just lost a lot of time and really only has a pawn and a queen. So black does the only thing that's gonna win at any material, and that's to grab these pawns here. He's hitting this bishop, he's hitting this knight, and things are looking good for him. So then the thing that white does to counteract this is it goes and takes a pawn of its own, putting the king in check because of the check here. And the king can't take this bishop because if it does, the knight will just kick out here and you got a nice little royal fork taking the queen with it. So it does the only thing it can do, which is move up to e6. The rook comes out attacking the queen, and the queen then backs up trying to attack the carry of the bishop. So what white does here is it does the easy rook check on the king here, guarded by the knight. And the king takes the bishop from there, and white pushes up, getting the pawn, fortifying this rook, and protecting all its pieces. So far, white really only has the queen out, the king's on the run, it's not looking good for black. Kicks back, trying to provide more protection for his king, and the knight kicks out here, putting the king in check. It's guarded by this rook here, so the queen cannot do anything to really stop this attack. The king runs forward, trying to get out, and from here, it's basically over. It's mate in 4. The queen comes out, put the king in check. The pawn comes out, the king takes the pawn, and then queen h3 to finish him off with checkmate, because you have the bishop here, taking away the only escape square for black. So the biggest things that we can take away from this game is white had really good development early on, despite the pressure from black's queen going all around the board. And we can see here that all 6 of black's pieces were not developed at all during this game, and it led to disaster for black. Now in our next game, we'll show why early queen moves can lead to disaster, and it usually leads to like a trapped queen. Open with the d4 from white. Black kicks out with knight to f6. White kicks then out to a c4 pawn move, and black moves up with e5. White takes on the pawn, attacking the knight. Knight comes out, trying to then win this pawn back, and white continues to develop with the knight on f3, protecting that e5 pawn. Black then kicks out the bishop. The pawn comes up, another knight comes out. Everything is looking good for everybody. White develops its dark squared bishop, looking to protect this pawn and further create attacking lines. The knight comes out to e5, looking to threaten this knight and this pawn. White has to do the exchange. Black exchanges back, attacking this pawn further, even though it's guarded by the bishop. And black goes in to attack the knight that is undefended. Black kicks out this queen to e7 to protect the knight. And white makes the ill-fated move of moving its queen out here. Black can really defend this fork pretty easily, as it is guarded by the queen here. He also moves the pawn up to further develop his queen so he can get his queen in the action. White further harasses the bishop with a b4 move, and black kicks the queen out with c6. So the queen retreats over here to e4. Black then kicks out the f5 pawn, harassing him even further. Queen has to move, and it moves to f4. And right here is where it starts to spell disaster. g5 comes in, further harassing the bishop. She has to pull back, and then from here, queen has no more moves, right? Can't go here, it can't go here, it can't go here, and it can go here because of the knight move here. So black pushes up, pushing her to the only place that she can really go from here on out, and it's a pawn move to take on f4. The pawn takes again, attacking the queen. The queen can then take the pawn, and things look like they're looking up for the queen, but with the check here on the king, it's really lost because you have the double check here going on the king. There's no way to defend it. And with that, they've lost the queen. And it's all because of that first queen move right here at queen to d5. When they made this move to try to create an attack line, it overextended the queen, and black was able to easily defend and run it into a trap position where black was able to win further. So to summarize, try not to move your queen too much, especially in the early game, until all your pieces are developed, because you'll lose time, you'll lose development, and the worst of all is you'll get your queen trapped. And without a queen in the middle to end game, you're going to lose the game. So next week, we're going to be be looking over the 4th mistake that beginners make, and that's grabbing pawns thoughtlessly, and why they lead to disaster for so many players like yourself. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.